Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Jennings Couch here at Holywell Studio, back with another tutorial, and today I'm going to be talking about how I program drums very simply and effectively. So let's jump straight into it. So just to keep things simple, I'm going to stick to one sample library, and today I'll be using samples instead of MIDI notes. You could easily load up Battery or anything like that and program drums on the keyboard, but I prefer to use samples. So I'm going to jump into my library and find a kick drum that I like. Great, that's a good start for now. So we'll drag that into the session. I'm going to call it kick 1 because I'm going to have more than one kick on this. And what I like to do with my kick drums is I like to fade the end out. I actually like to shorten it as well, make it as tight as possible. Still too long, so I'm going to shorten that a bit more. Bit more. Great, let's go with that. That's nice. So if we just listen to that kick drum sound for a second, it's got a high frequency in it that I don't like, so I'm going to cut that out with an EQ. And this is the FabFilter Pro Q. Cool. I'm going to bump up that low end a little bit. Great, that's cool. That's a nice kick drum sound to me. And I'm going to layer that with a second kick drum sound. And the second sound, I'm going to find something that has a bit of a higher frequency in it, a bit more of a punch. So let's see what we can find here. That's not bad. I'm going to try that one. Drag it into the session, call it kick 2, and I'm going to just mute this one so I can focus on this new kick drum sound. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm going to cut some of the low end out of it so it's not clashing with the first kick drum. And just bump it up around here a little bit to get that punch. Let's hear the two kick drums together. Cool, that's a good starting point. I like that. So I'm going to make a basic pattern on the kick drum before I add the snare and the hi-hat. So I'll just get something going here really quickly. Sweet. So I've just added two kick drums. One has a lower frequency that I bumped up. One has a higher frequency that I've cut the low end so it's not clashing so much. And that's a pretty decent kick drum sound to me. Now I'm going to look for a snare. And I'm going for kind of a trap hip-hop vibe with this drum beat. So I'm going to find a really tight, small snare that'll accompany that kick. Let's try that one. Again, I'm going to call it snare 1 because I'm going to have a couple of different snares going on here. So once again, I'm going to make it really short and tight. It's got a bit too much low end in it for me, so I'm going to cut that out. Cool. I'm going to duplicate that and see how it sounds with the kick drum. The snare sounds a bit floppy, so I'm going to try and pitch it up because it's not really giving me the vibe that I want. Yeah, cool. I like that. And once again, I'm going to layer that with something else. I think I want something that's sample delayed so I can hear it wide. And I like to go find a sort of a click kind of sound, maybe even some finger snaps. So let's see what we got in the library. A clap might work as well, but I don't want it to be so bright. I kind of want to keep it muted. Oh, perfect. That's a good sound. Let's drag that in. I guess it's still a clap, so I'm going to call it clap. And the goal with this clap is I want it to cover some of those higher frequencies that are missing from the snare. So that's what the clap and snare sounds like together, which is pretty good actually. I'm going to cut some of the low end and boost the high end a little bit as well. And then lastly, I'm going to sample delay that clap so it's coming wide. And I used to go on Pro Tools, I used to use the time adjuster for sample delay, and that still works really well. But I've recently been using the modulation delay, which is great. You just turn down the left knob and set the right knob to something like 20 or 30 should do it. And let's hear that. That's done the job. I like that a lot. And then copy it over with the snare. I like that. That's sounding pretty good to me. I'm going to look for another snare sound now that's playing kind of ghost notes in between the kick and snare. So let's see what we can find to do that. That's got to be a really tight, short snare, maybe even a rim of some sort. That rim could work actually. So let's try that. And then for this, again, I'm going to tighten it really short. And then what I do is I just usually drag around these kind of in-between snares and see what beats they work on. So I'm just going to mess around here for a little bit. That's pretty cool. We'll try here as well. We'll go 16% like this. Nice. Yeah, that's wicked. I love that. And finally, to complete our drum pattern, we need a hi-hat, of course. And once again, because I'm going for that kind of hip-hop trap vibe, I'm going to find a really small, tight little hi-hat. That's pretty good. That's good. Let's run with that one for now. And once again, I'm going to make it really short, make sure there's a fade on it, and call it hats. And then again, like the rim, I'm just going to drag it around into different places, different beats, and see what kind of hi-hat pattern I can get. I really want to be kind of pushing the song along, pushing the beat. So let's see what happens. Still too long for me, so I'm going to shorten them even further. Oh yeah, that's better. And by the way, if you wanted to shorten notes like that, you could either just do what I'm doing, drag the clip longer or shorter, but a very good plugin for this is called Smack Attack. And it allows you to basically manipulate the transients of the clip. So you can make the attack harder or softer. It's the same with the sustain, which is the release. So for example, if I had made the whole hi-hat pattern and realized at the end of it that I wanted all the notes to be a bit shorter, instead of having to go one by one and shorten all of the notes, I would just stick the Smack Attack on it, and I would drop that sustain down a lot, and that would just tighten up those notes, which is great. It's a great plugin by Waves. Not a sponsor. Anyway, let's continue making this hi-hat pattern. Oh yeah, nice. A fun little trick to do with those kind of very quick hi-hat sounds is to pitch them. So for example, if I've got 5 notes there, the first one I'm going to put down, say, -5, the next one -4, -3, and so on. You get the idea. And another way you could pitch it instead of doing it manually like that is you could stick a plugin on, for example, Little Alter Boy. You have the pitch wheel or any sort of pitch plugin where you can do this, but you'd have to automate it to rise as I just did it there. So let's hear how that sounds. Nice. So that's a nice little effect. It's all these tiny production things that make a track really pop. And now that I've done that hi-hat, I'm going to copy it to the next 4 bars. And essentially we have our full drum pattern there. We got 2 kicks, 2 snares, we got a rim and a hi-hat. So let's hear how it sounds all together. Oh yeah, that is very, very groovy indeed. The kicks are a little too weak for me, so I'm going to bump up the volume on that a little bit. If I was mixing this properly, I would put compressors on all of these and I'd bust them all to their own kick bus, and I could affect that as I want. But for this little basic tutorial, I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to make sure the levels sound good and see if there's anything else that we need to add. Something else I like to mess around with, talking about tiny production things, is I like to do the reverse kick drum. So for example, I'm going to take our low kick drum, which I believe is this one, and I'm literally going to reverse it. There we go. And I'm going to cut the end of it a little bit because it's going to have a tiny click. And I'm going to do that and have a bit of a fade in and see what that sounds like. Oh yeah, so it gives that boom kind of effect. And if I was doing that properly, I'm going to duplicate that track, the kick drum track, and I'm going to call that rev kick, as in reverse kick. And I'm going to drag that reverse kick drum we just made, turn it down a little bit, and I'm going to sample delay it. So it's going to be wide in the speakers or headphones, and it's just going to kind of that sucking in feeling. It's going to be great. So let's make it wide and see what that sounds like. Oh yeah, wicked. All together again. Another thing I'm hearing is on this clap, the second clap, I'm going to print some reverb on it. I do that in the audio suite, of course. If you're on Pro Tools, in Logic, you can do this another way, but I'm on Pro Tools right now, obviously. So we got a stereo track, so I'm going to get a stereo reverb. I'm just going to use what I always use for this. I'm going to print reverb on that clap. So it's going to sound like this, right? Which is sick. And then the last bit of it, I'm going to slow it down. And Pro Tools has this great feature. Again, you can do this on Logic, but it's a great feature. Verify, slow down, render. So the end of that clap is going to go, you'll hear it's sick. Yeah, nice. That's great. I might even copy that along to the 4th one, actually. And let's hear it all together. That's really cool. I'm really happy with that beat. I might actually keep working on that and make a song out of it. Nice one. Well, that's it for the very basic drum tutorial, how I program drums using samples. I could do another video about using MIDI drums, But for now, they use samples. And yeah, we made a really cool little drum beat. So guys, if you have any questions or want to know anything else, leave a comment down below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next tutorial. Cheers.
I tiptoe, life is blue, but it's cool that you'll never see the other side of me.